Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of tonight's double feature. Caught me sipping out of my little Star Trek mug here. Welcome to the show. The daily grind. 9 to 5, Work. Work sucks. That's the topic of the show tonight. And let's get right into it. Movie number one. Something that I just absolutely adore. I'm just going to tell you right off the bat. It's a movie called Clockwatchers. And, well, as you can see, this movie stars Toni Collette, Lisa Kudrow, Parker Posey, and Alanna Ubach. I think that's how you say that. She's the only one that I'm not, I'm sorry, that's Toni Collette. That's Alanna. They did it backwards up here. That's Lisa Kudrow. And that's Parker Posey, of course. Can I be honest with you? I'm thinking about just starting a whole Parker Posey podcast. Just saying enough with this whole B-movie mania thing. Let's just do a Parker Posey podcast because she's delightful. And she's delightful in this film, as is everyone in this film, quite frankly. This is a movie directed by Jill Sprecher, and it came out in 97. Yep, 1997. And the theme tonight is the workplace, specifically, like the 9 to 5 sort of workplace. I'm dressed, got my work attire on to sort of fit the bill for the evening, sort of get into the spirit of things in solidarity with the ladies here. And yes, this movie, Clockwatchers, is it's delightful. I would go so far as to say it's a cult classic, a modern cult classic. And yeah, it's just one of those indie gems from the mid to late 90s. And it's all about these four ladies are temps at an office in, I believe this was filmed in Pasadena, California. Although the movie has sort of like it could be anywhere, any town, any city type of look to it. But the characters in the film here are temps at an office, and so Toni Collette is like the main character. You sort of like, get to watch her go through the process of like starting out at this place on her very first day. She's very nervous, she's very uncomfortable, but she quickly makes friends with the other ladies in this film, and they sort of form this bond because they're all temporary employees. And it's great. It's not it's funny. There's actually some really funny stuff in here, but it's not necessarily a flat out comedy. It's sort of a 90s indie dramedy, I would say. And there's some really compelling stuff in here. It's, all about sort of like finding your place in the job world and sort of like trying to figure out what you want to do, because the corporate environment can be kind of stuffy and you're just not sure if it's for you. Having been through that myself, I can certainly identify with this movie. There's a lot in here as someone who worked in sort of the more corporate side of things in the late 90s myself. As a temp, I suppose, yeah, this movie kind of hit home for me in a lot of different ways. But it's all about them, trying to navigate through this world where there's a lot of men, and they do not always get treated with a ton of respect in the workplace, not just because they're temps, but because they're women. You know, it's just a little bit different for them in some respects. And there's a whole situation in the movie. Basically, what happens is someone in the office is stealing stuff, stealing people's personal items out of the office. And so much of the movie revolves around sort of trying to figure out who is the culprit, who is stealing stuff out of the office. And so in that sense, it's a little bit of a whodunit, I guess you might say, and you're kind of trying to guess who it might be. And there's clues along the way as to who it might be, and you're like, I think I know who it is. But then at the end, well, you know what? I won't spoil it for you. I would just simply suggest go check out Clockwatchers. This, of course, is a DVD that I have, and it's not a great DVD. It's standard, you know, like full frame, so you're not getting everything. But I did just rewatch this on the Criterion channel. So if you have Criterion channel, you can go check it out on there, and it's in widescreen. It's, you know, the proper presentation of this. Criterion, put this out on Blu-ray, please. I don't think that there's a proper Blu-ray release of this film, and there really needs to be, because it's an absolute gem. There's a quote actually on the back here from Roger Ebert. He says, Clockwatchers is a wicked, subversive comedy about the hell on earth occupied by temporary office workers. And that's true. Rest in peace, Roger Ebert. Quick look at the back there for you. I don't think on this disc there's any special features, which is a shame because, you know, early 90s is when DVDs were the thing, you know. Also, not early 90s, late 90s, excuse me. Quote on the front here, Ms. Posey plays with a compelling mixture of abrasive bravado and wrenching sadness. Stephen Holden, New York Times. It's an interesting quote because Parker is obviously a big part of this movie, but I would consider Toni Collette to be the lead in this film, and she's absolutely great in her role as Iris. Parker Posey's great as well, do not get me wrong. I mean, you could argue that she steals the show, but all four women are superb in this film, and I would highly recommend that you check it out. Clockwatchers, that is movie number 1. Movie number 2, moving right along. Get a quick sip of water here. I believe if you put something like a hot beverage into this cup, you see how everybody's on the transporter pad there? I believe if you put something hot in this cup, they beam up, they disappear. There's nothing hot in this cup because, well, it's not water. I always like to have a drink on tonight's double feature. Do not tell the boss. Movie number 2. This is something that I recently discovered, kind of randomly, and it is a movie called Dot. D-O-T, Dot. That's all it's called. I wasn't even sure what it was called because the cover is kind of confusing looking, because it says Dot. There's like a globe right here, or not even a globe. Yeah, I guess a globe with an arrow. It's supposed to indicate the World Wide Web. And then this right here says zektech.com, which is the name of the website that the characters in this film are starting. This is a movie about a startup company. And this movie is freaking hilarious. I randomly came across this movie at a like just a bookstore here in town where I live, and it was $1. See, $1. And you know, sometimes I do this. I'll be looking for movies somewhere, and I'll see something, and I'll go, "What the heck is this?" And if it's $1, and it just, you know, kind of catches my interest, pick it up, you know. And I'm so glad that I did, because this thing is super funny. I'd never heard of it before. I don't really know, to be honest with you, if it's on the radar for a lot of people or not. I would suspect not, but I just don't know. This is a film, get you some details here. This came out in 2001. And it was written, produced, and directed by Brett Singer and Simon Schnapper. Simone? Tell me how you would say that. Or Simone or Simon, if you're watching, please let me know how to say your name. This movie is all about the dot-com boom of the late 90s, mid 90s, late 90s into the early 2000s. And if you know anything about that period of time when the internet was, you know, first really becoming a thing for everybody, there were a lot of different people trying to make some big time money, coming up with a website, coming up with a way to sell a product or, you know, provide a service that was going to make them a lot of money. And obviously today that's a gigantic part of our lives, so it makes sense why everyone was doing that. This movie is all about a startup company called Zektech.com. And you know, when you have a business, you have to make a lot of decisions. And the people in this company make the wrong decision almost every time. And that's why it's so funny, because they are so bad at what they're doing and they're so inept at trying to make this thing work, that it's a lot of fun to watch. But in a weird way, you're like pulling for them. In a weird way, you want them and you want this website to succeed, even though you know it's not going to, even though you know that there's no way it's going to happen, because they don't really have a plan. Zektech.com is like, they have a very vague idea of what they want it to be, but they never really come up with anything that is like, you know, Amazon or anything groundbreaking like that. Let me just read a little bit of the back of this for you. It says, Dot may actually be more true to life than startup.com. And that's from Business 2.0. So I guess this movie is actually kind of a parody of this movie called startup.com, which I had never heard of before also. So I had to look that up. And I guess that's like a real documentary about startups trying to make it, trying to come up with something big for the internet. And so this is essentially a send up of that documentary. I'm going to have to check it out. This is basically a parody of that, if you will. Witness strategy meetings turning into fistfights. See advisory boards that include the Jolly Green Giant. Experience champagne, caviar, chicks, and crashes. Yeah, it's the way that they spend their money. You know, they'll get a little bit of investment money to get this thing going, and then they will just immediately start wasting it. It's kind of it's a little nerve-wracking to watch because of how bad they are at what they're trying to do. But I recommend you check it out if you can somehow get your hands on it. I don't know how you can, because like I said, I found this just at a bookstore randomly. And I think that I looked on an app that I have on my phone to see if it's streaming anywhere, and it didn't even know what this movie was. So I don't know if it's streaming anywhere or not. Oh, there's sort of like a cool little director's statement in here. Dot arose from a simple idea sparked by the filmmaker's personal experiences and executed flawlessly through the collaboration of a talented ensemble. It's true, the cast in this is great. The acting is really great. And it's done in that sort of Christopher Guest mockumentary style, you know, where you can tell a lot of it was improvised, or they had a very loose sense of what they wanted to do with a particular scene, and then they just started doing it. This stars Michael Mazzara, Catherine Martinez Ripley, Jamie McMillan, Matt O'Neill, Simon Schnaper, Stephen Eugene Walker. So one of the directors is actually in the film as well. Got some special features, director's commentary, actor's commentary, extra scenes, trailer, photo gallery, and production notes. For $1, come on, you know? So, yeah, that's sort of my, you know, little double feature on workplace comedies, workplace movies. You know, I highly recommend checking out both of these if you come across them, either at, I don't know, a Dollar Tree or your local bookstore, or streaming. If you have Criterion Collection, you can check that out. Let's do a thumbnail real quick here. And with that, I will let you go. Thank you for watching. Cheers.